Greetings, storytellers. So recently I posted a video where I was talking to you about the way we sense the world, meaning our five senses, and how we each have a different level of sensing the world. In other words, some people have stronger sight, some people have weaker sight, some people have stronger sense of smell, and so forth. And basically these variations in the way that people sense the world obviously affects the way stimulus comes in. In other words, everything you're experiencing is coming in through your five senses, right? So that immediately is going to affect the way you sense the world. And if you haven't seen that video, you should really backtrack and see that one first. This is really number 2 in part of that dialogue. So let's take the fact that we're all sensing the world differently. I want to remind you that the whole point of the gifted storyteller and the whole point of storytelling is about the fact that as information comes into your world, you of course now have to make a decision. You of course have to decide, what does that information mean to you? And not only what does it mean to you, but how are you going to take a next step? What are you going to say? How are you going to act? How are you going to respond to a moment? Which are affected by the filters of your life. In other words, depending on the way you were raised, the culture, the background, the way your parents taught you, the way your friends interacted with you, and of course mix all that together in a big pot, if you will, like if you're cooking, and throw in, of course, your own insights. Now, of course, you have you. You have the way that you're sensing the world, the way that you are operating in the world. And it's important for you to remember that as information comes in and you process it, there's a moment there. There's a very, very little space there where you can decide, what am I going to do next? Find that space, because a lot of times we react based on a story we've been telling ourselves. I want to remind you, it's your storyteller. It's you who's creating the story of your life. And at any moment, you can take your pen, skip a line, and start writing a brand new story. And that's something that so many successful people have done. They've taken what has come into them and then shifted it so that they can move in a new direction. And I'm sure that's what you've done so many times in your life, whether it's deciding what career you wanted, who you wanted to spend your time with, who you wanted to be in a relationship with, your friends, your family, and so forth. That's all about the way that you are taking that moment and writing your story. So what I encourage you to do, if you're a person who generally feels maybe down, angry, sad, one of the feelings that doesn't empower you and doesn't give you something that makes you excited and invigorated, I advise you and encourage you to take that moment, find that space between when somebody says something and ask yourself, well, what else could this mean? Because sometimes somebody says something and you get very angry or you get very reactive, and at that point, you're just letting them control you. You're bouncing off what they threw at you, when you can instead just catch that ball and decide how you want to throw it. So I'm encouraging you to create a better story. Find a way to take what comes at you, find that space, and decide for yourself how you're going to react. What else could it mean? Because the reality is, when people are saying things to you, or commenting, or saying something that you may not like, on one hand, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with their filters, their opinion, their way of sensing the world, and what they think should be done. That doesn't mean it's the way that you think it should be done. So that's number 1. And number 2, remembering that you have your own piece here. You have your own story to tell. It doesn't have to be in agreement with others. It doesn't have to be in alignment with others. It has to be what you feel is your best to the world. I had a moment about a year or 2 ago where I kind of had a very lucid dream, where I was in a meditative state. And I came to a huge understanding, because what I saw in this little state was, I actually saw my grandparents, who are long gone, and they were just looking at me and smiling at me. And so picture, you're standing in a spot and your grandparents are there, and this is what was happening to me. My grandparents, who are no longer on this planet, were there smiling at me. Behind them were their parents and family, and behind them were their parents and family. And basically what happened was, I was in the center, and as I pulled out and got a bird's eye view, I just saw masses of people all encircling me. Basically, the vision as such was, these are all the people who contributed to who I am today. And I came to understand that my gift, my opportunity, was creating what's going to come next. It's my thank you for all they've given, and it's my thank you forward. So how am I going to contribute so that that next person standing in the center is also having this opportunity? You are also standing in the center of that circle. You are a culmination of so much that has gone on before you. And now it is your opportunity and your gift. What story are you going to tell? What story are you going to create for your children or for your children's children, for people that you have yet to meet or maybe will never meet? What's your story? Remember, find that space, take that moment. Don't operate based on a reaction. Operate the way you would love to operate in this world. Create an amazing story, storytellers.